why would you want to do this was their question. Why are you doing this?
Is it true that when you arrived, you realized there's no electricity, and also wasn't it a little difficult actually arriving?
Excess.
Actually getting here? Can you tell me that story?
It's hilarious. Back then, what we thought was the road on which we drove was actually a riverbed.
Huh.
I only realized this when I moved here in the monsoons. And first day I arrived in the old Jeep, it got almost submerged. For about 100 feet, it was underwater. First year, so we ran out of water because the wells dried up, which nobody had told me this would happen, but they wanted to sell the piece of land, why would they talk about it? And I thought, what have I done? Everything that we built was built by people in a radius of 10 kilometers.
And was there ever a time when you thought, I've made a mistake? Sahaj, thank you so much for talking to Village Square. You've been in the travel industry for a couple of decades now.
Right.
But this venture here at Dhyaana is a completely different sort of adventure, I guess. And it's not just a business deal, really, is it?
No, well, it's business-wise, it is probably one of the worst deals that one could do.
Okay, so there's a matter of heart in here, I can tell.
That's right. So, but in terms of something that makes you feel very fulfilled and content, in those terms, yes, it has been a very successful deal, I would say.
So what's going on here? Why did you shift from the travel industry, running tours? You must have had quite a cushy setup traveling all over this country.
It was nice traveling all over this country and, traveling all over the world in the off season just to go and see where all the travelers are coming from and explore different parts of the world. Yes, it was very cushy compared to what it became here, but it was quite, I was traveling for about 15 years straight, largely working as a tour guide, leading trips. And then I had come to a point where I wanted to sort of slow down and be in a rural setup, not in a city.
Okay.
And once that happened, it was my co-founder, Aparna. She pointed out Ellora, actually. It was her who said, this is one place that... So when I was thinking of moving somewhere, I thought I could do something that also allows me to use my travel experience and bring that into play.
Okay.
I was born in Maharashtra, in this state, and then I'd moved to Delhi for work, for travel. But one thing that, that had stayed with me for a long time was the sight of Ellora. The first time I visited it as a tour guide, I felt it was so humbling, it was overwhelming. And because, we all keep talking, anyone who's a seasoned traveler in India like yourself, who lives in India or who's been coming to India, we all see...
Ellora was my first place. Well, Bombay, but Ellora was the first site.
Wow, that's actually the right order to do it, chronologically. Yeah. Because otherwise, most people come and see Northern India, they do a Rajasthan or they do a Kerala.
Yep.
And we talk about ancient India, but you never really get to see it.
No.
And Ellora is one place where, it is in your face and in such a majestic manner that it is really overwhelming. But it was not promoted. There was no right tourist infrastructure, very few places to stay, no options in Ellora itself. People would only be staying in the city.
True. Slightly underdeveloped city at that.
Yes.
So it wasn't the sort of glitz of Bombay or Mumbai. It wasn't the capital. It wasn't even it had its own beat, but it was maybe a different experience coming to India and landing at Aurangabad, which is now called
Sambhaji Nagar, Chhatrapati Sambhaji Nagar.
Yes, I'm glad you said it, not me. But so you're offering, you created this place to try and bring Ellora a little bit more on the comfort
map. On the map for a traveler. Also, it was quite interesting because when when we perceived the project, we wanted to work on it like that. But just when we had acquired this piece of land, the pandemic hit.
Yep.
Everything for travel, we had to shut shop. I had to move here within 2 months of the pandemic hitting, lock, stock, barrel, I moved here, moved into a cow shed. And at that point, the long-term vision for, to have a farm stay for travelers and stuff had taken a backseat for me.
Okay.
Because, there were no resources, that was streamlined. It looked like travelers are never going to come back to India. Tourism will never start. It was locked down for almost, a little over half a year. So I started working on this project like, what if we were to build an earth ship, which is sustainable, to live by myself in the countryside.
An earth ship.
Earth ship in the sense that, like the idea of if there's a doomsday, how would you live sustainably? Okay. Just in a, metaphorical sense. But so the idea was, what all do you need to live? Mm-hmm. You need energy first, and then you need food. Primarily, those are the resources, and that sort of allows you to, venture into a lot of things and make life comfortable for yourself. So we started, as we started working here, we realized that the electricity supply is so erratic and barely there in the countryside. So we started working on solar panels. Okay. So now we generate about 30 kilowatts of electricity every day. So we run entirely on the sun, off-grid all year long. Then we started growing the food. The soil, as you have worked a lot with this, the way it's been depleted of all its nutrition because of the, standard practices of growing cotton and monocropping. Yep. So we started on changing the soil with a lot of mulching material, with organic farming. So that was something, and we, it was a lot of help for me from the local community. I always say that because I had no experience of farming or no education in this. But as I stepped in, one thing that I realized very quickly that the villagers hold a lot of wisdom of traditional farming. Some of those practices, they might not be doing it, but they grew up like 30, 40 years ago, seeing their parents grow certain, these forgotten seeds, using organic manure as your primary manure, using the cycles of, the weather cycles to your advantage. Yep. So, the sowing times and stuff like that. So
I just want to go back a second.
Right,
though.
so.
No. Is it true that when you arrived, you did sort of think that you were arriving here and you had this piece of land, you knew it was in this beautiful setting, but you did think there was electricity and you thought that it would be kind of easy to set up shop here or set up a house here. But when you arrived, you sort of realized there's no electricity, and also wasn't it a little difficult actually arriving? Actually getting here? Can you tell me that story?
It's hilarious because we saw this piece of land, I remember in the month of December when we decided to buy it. So it was all dry. Roads coming in, it's a bumpy road coming in. Yeah. But back then what we thought was the road on which we drove was actually a riverbed. I only realized this when I moved here in the monsoons. In the thick of monsoons, the first day I arrived in the old Jeep, it got almost submerged. For about 100 feet, it was underwater.
How did it keep running?
Surprise, without a snorkel,
How deep?
The water would come till the wipers of the Jeep, and it came out on the other side, and I thought, what have I done? But, one, the world had stopped. Yeah. This is everything that I was betting on, that I need to have an alternative life, to live in this countryside. And I was obsessed with the idea of changing a landscape, making it green and, replanting trees and how that sort of really changes the environment, the ecosystem.
I mean, right now when you look at this, it's absolutely beautiful. Of course, we're here at the after the monsoon, in the middle of a sort of lovely Maharashtrian winter. It is a bit chilly at night, interestingly. And it's green and lush, but it wasn't like this.
When we arrived, this was just a flat piece of land.
Okay.
It didn't have any trees on it. Like most cultivators, the family that was running this farm was, living off it and doing just monocropping, a traditional crop. And unfortunately, for most farmers, also sometimes because land holdings are small, people think that trees in your farms, they have shade and nothing would grow under the shade. So you need to wipe out all the trees. So it was just, to me, it was barren because it was, without any trees, no organic manure and, no organic cycle that is forming there. And so it held a lot of potential. But I didn't know that this is also a drought-prone area. We'd seen it in December. So
you didn't know that? So you just fell in love with the spot,
right?
Without
because there's this beautiful forest right behind it. It fit the idea where we wanted to be close to a forest area.
Yeah.
And
close to Ellora.
Close to Ellora, somewhere in between,
just
in the middle of nowhere.
Drought-prone.
And the people were nice. The people who were, because that is something that one needs to know as well. And these are things that actually, it was just that I was very naive about it. Electricity and stuff, whatever all one would need to sustain oneself, wasn't really in the picture until I moved here.
Okay.
And I realized, electricity is not something that in the cities, in Delhi, it goes off for a little while, or we don't even know because there's power backup and everything.
Yeah.
Here you start valuing it.
Yeah. And you are completely off grid.
We are completely off grid.
You even have your own water and a big reservoir as well?
So even for water pumping, water heating, anything that requires electricity energy, we've gone use solar. The technology is now evolved.
And importantly, water irrigation.
Water irrigation is.
Are you a farmer?
Well, now yes, because all these trees I've planted, we didn't have a team coming in. It was just the families that were close by. They became like family to me, and we started planting. They were all amused that what is this guy coming from Delhi? What does he want to do? They just were intrigued by, stuff that I was talking about. But they believed in the idea. And actually it's them and, the team together that, that we could do this transformation. We kept planting.
But I believe you did actually find it hard to find some local talent, that some of the farm community, after just years of agriculture distress, had migrated.
Still are. Yeah. People have migrated, like you said, young people, their aspiration lies in towns. They want to go because farming is not a profitable business for most farmers. Land holdings are small.
Can be, but
it can be, sure. But if
hard.
With the traditional systems that they're operating with, the soils are depleted, and they're not really aware of what is the market.
Yeah.
Because I'm always surprised. I look at prices sometimes when I go to supermarkets in Delhi and in Mumbai. If I happen to be there, I come back and tell these guys in the village whenever I meet them, I said, your moringa, your tomatoes, what are they sold for? They can't believe it.
Yeah.
And, they're all land holdings, people can do stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, that has been a challenge. But there's...
You brought in some farmers from MP?
So initially, because, finding people to work on a farm is difficult. Nobody really wants to work. From people... So their aspirations lie elsewhere. Yep. And then there's a lot of, the traditional farming is not of planting trees.
Okay.
Traditional farming is, where your tractors come into play and everything. So there's a different kind of labor force. So we needed, because we were doing plantations from bamboo to, all kinds of fruit trees and flowering trees and native varieties of trees. So we needed somebody to really help us. So, these bunch of young people, they came and they helped us plant the first batch of, say about 1,000 trees. And
you guys were all living here together?
We were all living here together. There wasn't, I didn't think, I was in fact so silly about it that, all these people came and I realized they generally used to sleeping under a tarp even in the monsoon. It's something that we're not used to and we can see. So I had built like a little structure there, so I moved them all in there. I moved to the cow shed again, while this was happening. But it was a great time. It was just, you're just working on the field and you're planting these trees and just thinking what it would look like when but I think nobody can ever imagine. It's just, something at play. It's nature's magic, the way it unfolds.
How many trees did you plant here?
In total, till now, more than 2,000 trees.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And did you have a lot of hits and misses?
Not a lot. It's also the time of the year when you plant. All this wisdom came from the locals. Because if you plant in the monsoons, as I said, this is a drought-prone area. Those 3-4 months are crucial for your trees. If you could take care of them then. And the first year, so we ran out of water because the wells dried up, which nobody had told me this would happen, But they wanted to sell the piece of land, why would they talk about it?
Of course.
But the first year when that happened, we just had to carry buckets, do our CrossFit with the farmer's walk.
Yeah.
And water every tree with buckets entire summer.
Really?
Immediately what we started working on was a rainwater harvesting reservoir.
Okay.
So the massive reservoir that we have now, floats us through the entire harsh summer.
Okay.
We close operations for all guests. One, it is hot.
In the summer times.
In the summer times for about 2 months. And the water is needed primarily for, the trees and the plants and everything for the place to sustain itself.
So let's actually, before we fast forward to what this is now, let's talk just that one. There was one other story about that riverbed that you talked about, and you were not only trying to get there the first time, but then day in and day out your supplies coming in.
Right.
And you said the locals thought you were bonker brains, I guess.
Totally. Because they were all amused. One, first of all, nobody had come in here in this village to set up like a farmhouse setup. People were living just the way they were living. This village was absolutely untouched from anyone from the outside coming in trying to do something. And because we had to build some structures, all these lorries carrying bricks and stuff would come in and they would get submerged in water and stop at some point.
Yeah.
So we'd take the old jeep, tie it with a rope. The entire village is amused, sitting on either sides of the embankment, from kids to elderly people betting what's going to break, and what's going to happen. It was an everyday adventure. We'd sometimes have trees come in from these nursery and, these are big trees, they were coming in bags. And the guys, because they would look at the road and they would dump the entire plant, whatever we had ordered right on the side. And all night long, 3-4 of us would do it, just upload it in a tractor.
Okay.
And then, bring it here. And so it was a very adventurous time.
Yeah. And was there ever a time when you thought, I've made a mistake, I shouldn't have done this?
No, there were. I would be lying if I were. Because, sometimes it just is too much, you don't even know that what you've signed up for. But I think just the way my brain is wired, some friends have told me this is like classic ADHD, that I see step 1 and I see step 100.
Okay.
I'm very incapable of seeing the steps in between.
Okay.
So,
probably a good thing. Or you might not have.
I would, if I were to know what all it would take to be here, I would probably not do it.
Yeah.
To be honest, but it's been very rewarding in so many ways, because now, when for quality of life, I did not want to live in a city.
You don't miss it?
Not at all, It's in fact difficult when I am in cities. My tolerance to city has become so low because, basics are missing in India, unfortunately, with the quality of life. The countryside, for so much money, people just have small pigeonholes, and I understand, their jobs and their families, there's engagement that's there, there's education. But I do think that the rural India has so much more to offer, there's cleaner air, there's cleaner water, you can grow your own food, you can work with people, that are villagers that are so genuine and loyal and hardworking and inspiring, and we're so pampered in the city. It's unbelievable. You only realize it once you move, I think.
But what I think is so special about this place is, you have your creature comforts. You have a very hot shower. Do you run ACs in the summer? You don't run ACs? Okay, that's interesting.
So that's why we close for the summers.
So you close,
because running ACs, one, to produce that kind of electricity with solar, it's very difficult.
Okay.
And two, ACs beat the purpose. I think, it's already time, this is outdated technology. We are looking at ambienters.
Okay.
This is cutting edge technology of bringing temperatures down without using ACs. They're much more expensive compared to it, but they run on very low electricity, solar, and bring the ambient temperature down by 10 degrees, which is comfortable without any noise. And so we want to club that technology that is happening with sustainability in a settings where it is actually most required.
Right. So fast forward to 2025 or 2023 is when you opened up as a boutique homestay?
Yeah, extension of our farm,
5 rooms?
5 rooms.
Okay.
5 rooms.
So you've got some bikes, you've got horses, you've got, and I'm talking about beyond the Ellora and Ajantha around here. And you also take your guests on hikes, complete with tea and even cheesecake if you're lucky. You have an in-house baker who makes fantastic pizza and parathas. You also, I believe, have clay mold.
Pottery, yes.
Yeah, pottery. So have I missed out? And you have a swimming pool, a small pool.
A small pool.
A volleyball net.
A volleyball net. Yes.
Yeah. And for Twitchers, you have your bird.
Yes, the bird watching tower, Machan. Yes.
So and you even have the occasional leopard around that could be spotted.
That's right. Okay. You know that leopards elusive animals, but we have our network with the villagers who are right next to the forest. If they spot it, we get the info and we make our guests leave whatever they do.
Okay. And I take it, is that why the rooms have the sort of the fencing?
That's right. Because when I moved here, because we are close to the forest, so there is leopard movement, and they love dogs.
Okay. And you do have some dogs?
We do have some dogs and cats
and
cattle,
buffalo,
all the dairy,
or
buffaloes and cows.
So fresh milk?
Yeah, so dairy is coming. So the idea is that the entire food comes from the farm. Then there is experiences that are sort of rooted and simple, where one could really immerse themselves into being where you are. Cycling being one of them. In fact, even plucking vegetables.
Yes.
Because we are growing all kinds of stuff, and a lot of people, grown-ups, myself included. I didn't know what grows and what it looks like.
Yeah.
And the leaves are edible and the flowers are edible, and
Well, your field of yellow dal.
Yes.
Who knew those beautiful flowers in those pods produce the thing that we eat every day.
And when people taste this food, and then they ask us sometimes, some of our guests, can you pack like a half a kilo of dal for us? Because this is like the tastiest dal we have, and that is really fabulous to hear and to know that.
And even on the western end of the spectrum, your pizza was so good because, of course, the crust was great. You have your own baker, but the sauce, because I think you have tomatoes that actually have flavor.
So we grow our own wheat.
Okay.
We have our own small chucky, like a flour mill.
Okay.
So we make our own flour. So flour doesn't stay, it's done almost every third or the fourth day. Okay. Hence it tastes also so good.
Interesting.
The wheat is only stored with neem leaves, like entirely organic. It's a labor-intensive process. You have to bring it out in sun, and my mom is like our farmer in chief. She knows her ways of preserving stuff in an organic manner. So I think that also allows one to really bring that flavor out, because it's not it's all done fresh. So you can store the wheat well. You have to show it sun from time to time, and then whenever you need fresh flour, you'd get it from there. They've gotten a good starter from somewhere. The bakery team loves it.
So farm to fork was a fundamental part of what you wanted to do. And what would you say the percentage is?
Depends on the time of the year.
Okay.
Because there are times of the year, for example, the monsoons that we had this year, whatever we planted, everything was damaged.
Okay.
So other than grains, you couldn't take any vegetables and stuff.
Okay.
So, but then there are times of the year, like from right now until April, we'd be growing so much. So the percentage on an average would be about 70%.
Okay, nice.
We want to up it, take it higher, so that only salt, our idea is that only salt should come from outside.
Okay.
And everything else, because we're making our own edible oils. The dairy is coming from the farm.
Okay.
And getting a small presser to make cold pressed oils.
I think you could work on the salt. I think you could probably do salt here too.
How? The pan.
Yeah, you probably could. Also, I suppose when people want to come in and have special occasions here, you even have a very creative friendly chef in the city who comes and does tasting menus or full course ensembles of different foods as well.
Right. So Mohib is a dear friend. He's a very talented chef. You've seen his kitchen. So he comes and does elaborate farm to table dining, very contemporary, and
and
something
if people want, can they pluck what they want and create a meal
with Mohib
from
it becomes difficult.
Not with Mohib, but just in general on the estate.
In general for sure.
But now let's talk a second about the landscape and so we know that you started because of the heritage of Ellora, and you've said there's so many other amazing cultural and heritage sites around that people don't even know about. So a lot of people just come for 1 or 2 days to tick off Ellora, see Ajantha, and then that's it. But you're saying there's a lot more to see?
There's a lot more to see.
That's really worth it, or is it just sort of a dusty cave with a stupa? And
it's in fact something. What makes it even more interesting is that the crowds don't go there, and it's offbeat. So you travel on a path that is not, the most convenient and the most well-built road. But India, we have so many fabulous sites forgotten, off the main tourist radar.
Yeah.
And these sites are like exploring, So the first time I went to Pitalkhora, for instance. Pitalkhora is older than Ajantha. Okay. That's where the entire story starts. It's not as elaborate as Ajantha, but you do see that, how they started on, this stone rock-cut architecture school, that's where the first steps were taken.
And how far away is that from here?
So about 45 minutes from here. And it's in the forest. You have to hike down a ravine. Most people, are not fit enough, to do that.
But for those who like hiking and
adventure and jungle,
and it's safe.
It's a fabulously safe site.
There's not full of snakes and
and
leopards.
They're guards, and it's an archaeological survey site. So, but unless people who really know about it, there would be very few. And then there's right in the forest. There's a further hike from there is a 10th century Aryabhatta temple, the only temple in India that's dedicated to the great mathematician.
Wow, that is amazing.
So, and it's a beautiful temple, but in ruins now, but in a gorgeous, forest settings.
I want to see that.
Yeah,
I want to see that.
Great exploration, It's and it's not on the map anywhere. No guidebook mentions it.
I mean, it's like two of my favorite: heritage and hiking. Like
you club it together. Yeah.
Fabulous. But you also can enjoy, as you say, the food, the heritage hiking. You mentioned earlier, though, that one of the processes of, I think, your wheat was labor intensive. But let's talk about the labor now for a minute. I think you mentioned that you employ 25 local people from the village. Yeah. How did that journey begin, and how do you feel? Is it a big part of what you're doing here?
Well, and it's really humbling and really rewarding to know that the feedback that I get from the villagers, people who live here, all the neighbors, young boys and everyone, they're all very happy because the village is now getting popular. They get tourists here. They're all buzzing with ideas about what they can do. Because that was one of the ideas behind, that we develop a model for agro-tourism, which is also what people can replicate in their own forms in how they would want. It is not, we don't want to have any monopoly. There are already people who come and visit us and, look at what we have done. Everything that we built was built by people in a radius of 10 kilometers.
Okay. The carpenters,
the carpenters, the plumbers, the electricians. So you have rough edges, you'd notice those.
Yeah.
But that was the way.
And presumably they're using those skills now elsewhere as the industry is growing.
They come and they take pictures from here. They show our Instagram that this is what I have built.
Okay.
And anyone wanting to build something new, these guys are and it's so nice to see that, because these were designs that not worked on. They had the know-how of building, but they'd not used it in this manner. For example, mud-plastered walls. People in the village, they were all aspiring to have concrete.
Right.
But the moment they see this, and they come and see that we have mud plasters wall everywhere, there's a lot of nostalgia.
Okay.
Because they all grew up in mud plastered houses and they know the benefits of it. That it stays warm in the winters, it stays cool in the summer. It's very organic. It feels really nice to be in that space. Even in the monsoon when it rains, it has a beautiful fragrance to it.
And you've shown how for different palates, everybody has a different idea of beauty, but you've shown how it can look very high-end and stylish and fashionable.
And I think that's the new taste, right? Like people appreciating the rural aesthetic. And India was largely a country that comes, from its villages. The rural aesthetic has developed over hundreds and thousands of years with its practicality, with its sustainability, and with all the beauty and the charm that it has to it. So, people appreciate it by myself, from somebody who makes simple baskets with, this invasive weed, which could be turned into lamps. That's what we are doing, these
wonderful.
amazing baskets that they use for fodder.
Okay.
We turn them into lamps. It's just a great weave and a beautiful handicraft. And then with whatever they were doing, even their simple drawings of, the tribal drawings that they have, it's one of the most, beautiful art forms.
And I think what's so cool is you're showing that these things are to be valued and appreciated, and it brings a renewed sense of self-worth and
absolutely
maybe dampens the desire to leave and go to the city, that you find that there's a way that you can sustain a life here, especially if they're seeing other people coming and recognizing what rural India has.
That's right.
Is there any danger of too many people coming? I mean, India is a populated country.
Too many people coming from
the cities?
From the cities? No way. Our cities are so densely populated. It would be really nice if we would uncongest, unclutter our cities. Our village population migration, the numbers are huge.
Yeah.
And a lot of city dwellers now know the value of cleaner air. That's what we get here. We get people from the cities and they meet these village boys. And they see how, fit they are and how much they work, and they're joyous, their general quality of life is high. They're quick to laugh and smile and forgive and, move on. Like in general, their life qualities are different because of the environment, environment is a huge factor.
Yeah.
And what really happens is when somebody comes from the cities and lives like this, like when I'm working in the field, initially, now they don't, initially whenever they would be doing anything and I'd jump in, they'd say, no, why would you want to do this was their question. Why are you doing this?
Okay.
Like you could live in an apartment, you were in the city, you were in Delhi of all the cities, that's like, what is the reason? And when I would tell them, okay, you have cleaner air here, we are all sitting and eating the best food, grown in your own farm. There's a certain sense of value that is added in their perception to where they are. I keep asking this question, one of my favorite things to ask, these boys anyone who's really wanting to go to the city, I said, what would you want in the city? Say Mumbai. Say, make a lot of money. I said, okay, say you're making X amount of money, you're super comfortable in Mumbai, what would you do now? He said, I'd buy a farmhouse.
Right, okay. So the idea is, this is the dream, and they know that, but you might be migrating to get the means to the end.
That's right. So if that can be changed, that is one of the core ideas.
Yeah.
If we could make like what you have been working for and dedicated your work to, and it's incredible, is if people could stay back where they are, they have the know-how, they have the technical know-how, because farming is not something you'd learn overnight. You have to watch seasons. It's only learning by doing as you get on the ground, and a lot of them have grown up like that. And if they start seeing value and start doing stuff on ground in their families, they could be, there's so much better self-reliance, better quality of life than not living in very small quarters in the cities.
I mean, we could
go on.
We could go on. I mean, the consumerism that has consumed us, the desire to buy and spend and spend and spend, then you have to work and work. It's this crazy cycle. If we buy less but live more, maybe there's
and I think grow more.
Yeah.
I think at some point, consumerism is also, it gets to a point where what do we end up buying now? I mean, yes, of course, clothes and stuff, but food is one big part of the expense.
And working for it. I think when you work for something, you value it more.
You appreciate it. It tastes so much better.
It does. And also those dopamine levels,
Absolutely.
like you're getting the dopamine from the reward of working for something instead of just constant little hits of dopamine. And then we're frazzled by the end of it and wondering why we're so unhappy.
So the lot of research about this, well, right now it's the hottest topic is, how to live longer longevity.
Yeah.
And people who are into farming, communities that are into farming, they are the ones who live the longest across the globe.
Yeah, it's that CrossFit training.
It's two things. One is, the CrossFit training that you're working on the field. So there's a lot of movement that is, you're bending down, you're giving your joints the exact movement. This is the physical side of it. The psychological side of it is the anticipation that when you're farming. So like right now, I'm already looking forward to the mangoes in the summers. And by summers, you've planted something, you're waiting for your crop. So there's constant, you're looking forward to your crop growing, there's something to look forward to.
Medium term as opposed to instant gratification, but you have to work towards it.
And there's something, it's cyclical because it's all seasonal. Every season has its fruit.
But I want to just push back a tiny bit here.
Sure.
That a lot of people would say, it's all well and good to come with your city money. As people go to the city, as you say, you go to the city, you make your money, and to come in and come here.
Right.
Actually, farming is a hard slog.
It is a very
and it can be depressing. We know suicide rates are just horrible to think about sometimes. The drudge that women that often bear the brunt of the burden in the farms because the men are migrating to the cities and the women are left. Are we painting too rosy a picture here?
No, so there's sides to it. There are absolutely sides to it. One, if you're coming from the city to work and live off a farm, you've got to do your math. You have to understand that unless there's a sizable piece of land that one is working on, one has really thought it through. One angle for one to sustain could be tourism.
Okay, which is what you're doing.
Which is what we are doing, And tourism in that sense is multifaceted. Because when you have people coming in, those people could also become your consumers for what you grow.
Okay.
So you're reaching to your customer also directly, and there's a great equation between somebody who's come and stayed here. Now that you've come and stayed here, you see that, our dal is growing. If I were to sell you dal, I don't even need to. You've seen the field that's growing right here. You could be. So we need to find ways to have that transition.
Okay.
And of course, there's a certain investment and there's, capital and as well as, one's own investment into doing, your time and your energy to be creating something like this. But it's doable and it's highly rewarding.
So one more tiny bit of pushback.
Yeah, please.
What about climate change? Isn't that just screwing?
You got to adapt. Climate change is something that people are, and I think what is really important and
because it's going to hit rural Indians more than
it. Absolutely, and that's when we need, that's when we really need city dwellers to move into farming for the very basic reason of that these guys, for example, if you've been trained, say, into commerce and you're doing or coding or you're a software engineer, now you're used to a certain exposure and you're used to finding a means to get a lot of information on the subject. So for example, when I moved here and when I wanted to do stuff and when I messed up a couple of times, I made phone calls, read up about it. There's just so much information that these guys they would not approach it like that, a traditional farmer. And I'd have the bandwidth to, try a new crop. Let me try black turmeric.
Okay.
Now, black turmeric is 10 times the price of a, regular turmeric.
Yeah.
But it's turmeric.
Right.
But they're not growing it.
Okay.
Instead of just growing wheat, let me try a wheat of flax seeds. It's almost similar harvest with 5 times, the money.
Right.
So
high yield produce.
High yield produce. Yeah. You know your market. You know these guys. If it is somebody from the city, you know what we pay for. These things, and those could be brought in, and that information then seeps in.
Yeah.
Because now I'm not the only one who's growing flax seeds. Our neighbors have started growing it. That is like the.
Okay.
It's fabulous.
It'll be orange sweet potatoes next.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, but you did have, or you do perennially have problems with forest fires.
Yes.
What happens there? Is that climate change, or is that human?
This is human and environmental conflict, because the forest fires that we have are, started by humans, primarily by people who are grazing around with their cattle, because, grazing of goat and sheep is a good source of revenue. It's an animal that multiplies fast, and they have forest lands here, grazing lands, so people graze in them. What forest fire does is, makes these long patches, and which allows a lot of meadows, and
But the trees go.
Trees go, and all the the bird life, all the wildlife that is there. And eventually all the grasslands will also die if there are no trees.
That's right.
They miss the plot there.
So have you actively tried to stop this?
First year I could only helplessly watch it, and I remember it was dreadful to be on the roof and just look at this entire ridge burn for 3 days, because you just hear this far the cracking of trees, and they're constantly all 3 days and 3 nights. It went on. The second year I jumped in. Village boys, they came in, the forest department, I guess they needed a starter, somebody to really, sort of jump in and say, and
it's worth it.
It's worth it, and I think somebody says it, and then it sort of comes, to everyone's notice that everyone hated it, most people. So now the police, the forest department, the village boys, everyone's at it. And initially when it starts, it's very important to keep an eye.
Okay.
So from the month of March, our local guys, our network that we have here, everyone keeps an eye. If there's smoke anywhere, you go right then and there. Even if you leave it for 2 hours, it is going to be that much more hard work. If you leave it for 6-8 hours, it's very difficult to then so. But I think this awareness is sort of getting in the system.
But how do those farmers feel about you sort of getting in the way of their meadow making?
So this nobody would come out and say, because there are other farmers who are closer to the forest, and it could be very dangerous for their fields. So nobody really takes ownership of who has done it. There's one guy, or whoever is being used by these grazers, because they're farmers and they're grazers. So there is. But I think in general there is the human-animal conflict. As we move, as the cities expand and the forests shrink, this is something that's everywhere in India. Like we see, this is one conflict area that we'd have to look at by probably creating buffer zones. What government lands are, in some ways we'll have to start, creating some sort of fences. That this interaction can be stopped, and we can create alternatives for, there's a lot of stuff now in terms of technology. People could be grazing even from half an acre with a new system of, sort of on the lines of hydroponic, not that entirely hydroponic, but you could grow a lot of fodder for your cattle. So things like that, will have to come into play. If we were to look long term, how are we going to, because this, as affluence grows, people would be eating more meat. They'd need more dairy. We would really need like sustainable ways to, mitigate that conflict.
Do you see yourself sort of entering local politics to spread this message?
Well, it's one of those things we all keep cribbing about it, but nobody wants to do it. So, I'm just too invested in, this peaceful life here. To be, but what I would like to do is, if there's an entire ecosystem where young people, boys, girls, everyone, because we have started to work with the school here. With the village school, where they all start getting trained into, how do we make our lives, enrich our lives by being here by the virtue of just being farmers here. You know, there have been projects across India. They're viable projects people have led that, you know, whatever. For example, they grow a lot of tomatoes here. And the rates for the tomato in the local market, it is so poor that half the farmers have to throw their tomatoes right outside their field. I know what it takes to grow them and, you know, so much hard work. But if they were to start working on organic tomatoes, there's a big market in India and internationally. The transition is what they need a bit of hand-holding through.
And do you do any of that?
So we're working with about 10 farmers on, say, about another 30, 40 acres of land where we are, you know, they've started growing. So we are the consumers right now. That is the support that we can provide them.
Great.
We have a team here, we have guests, so whatever we need, we buy it from them. They're assured that, you know, this is the price. Irrespective of, you know, whether it's a good crop, bad crop, you know, they would get, you know, this much price for sure, even like an insurance cover for their crop, because, you know, they're taking a risk of doing what they're doing.
More farmers need insurance.
Right, right. And more than insurance, I think what they also need is assurance. You know, that somebody is backing you in this transition. Because if I were to, you know, I used to say this, that why don't they grow organic? They should grow organic. Only until I moved here and I realized it's ridiculous amount of work that they do, physical labor for growing what they're doing, and they're living off it.
Right.
It's barely hand to mouth, and then to expect that, okay, you start just using manure, your yield is going to go down. That is going to affect, you know, everything that they do. There's barely any margin there. So somebody needs to come in and provide, one, what crop to grow, so your crop changes your, you know, what you're earning, so that, you know, it makes up for that transition period. And two, you need somebody like a support, you know, where will you sell? Like,
that, I mean, the market is the hardest part. As you
market
say,
is the hardest.
It's getting it actually to the market, that last leg of the market. Yes, that's why the Samaj Sakar Bazaar. You've got to link them all up, or it doesn't.
And what happens. I feel now in today's day, what we could do, and I've started talking to these guys. I said, anyone who has, like, you know, you're 5 of you, you're doing this now. Whatever you grow, we want to do some footage. We want to do some social media about these guys doing it. You know, today in this day and age, anyways, they're spending so much time on watching stuff on their phones. You know. So they'd rather create content of what they're doing. If they're doing something genuine, people come and buy.
Yes, please. I mean, everything has a story to it, and people want to know what that story is.
Exactly.
And the QR code
can take
you to that story.
You want to know your farmer. This is what I've realized, because now, you know, we were sourcing. It's a common conversation that anyone who's buying organic, we all think, how organic is this label, you know, is this package?
I was going to ask you that.
The only authentic, in my view, would be that if you know your farmer, that's the only way for you to...
I like that. Maybe you should start a Know Your Farmer initiative.
Right. You know, it would be interesting to, but that's something, because that's what I see here.
And then that can also spark an agri-tourism where people go and they visit the farmers.
That's right.
Maybe they stay at a place that suits their style, their budget, whatever. But they go and they meet the farmers and they see what's growing.
And disconnect, once we develop in India this model, you know, in some ways organically it is happening. I do see friends in, you know, here of friends in Jaipur, because some people did move from the cities to farming during the pandemic in India. People who had ancestral lands. So their way of now, whatever they produce is selling it, is putting it in a WhatsApp group in the city. And people want to know that, okay, it's coming from your farm. I know that you are there for the, you know, you're not there to, it's what you eat, you share.
Well, lastly, speaking of that aspect of trying to have a little bit of the organic experience in the cities, tell me about the seed banks and the seed initiatives and what you're seeing. We've done loads of story on Village Square about people that are seed bank harvesters that do have these labors of love, but you've come across some and you're now doing it yourself. So tell me.
I mean, you've done so much work about it, but just to, in some ways, put it into perspective, we know that seed is the ultimate currency, right? And once the modified seed comes into play, they don't reproduce. So the native seeds the seed banks that are from, for everything, all the native greens, all the vegetables, grains, they are adapted to the environment. Mm-hmm. 2, they pack a nutritional punch. Their glycemic index is low. They don't look necessarily as good. For example, the native spinach that we grow, it doesn't grow that big. But, the flavors, what it has to offer in terms of its nutrition and its adaptability to the soil. Those 3 pointers are most important for the grower and for the consumer.
Yep.
So you don't need extra fertilizers. Your cow dung manure is enough, for anything that you would grow with the native, because that's how those seeds have developed over millennia.
Yep.
And that is something, it's very difficult to get hold of seeds, native seeds especially. We still don't have a wide network. Wherever you go to buy, that's what I realized. I'd go to buy seeds. Every seed packet you buy, it's written poisonous, don't put, keep away from children. Like if you just turn the label, because they're all coated with chemicals so that no bug would eat it.
Isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
You've planted it so that your sowing rate is very high. Yeah. No bug would eat it. They're already coated with poison. Yeah. So something that's coated, this is a very, naive assumption that something that's coated with poison and that's, from the seed, something that's growing. There will be traces of it in your food. They're bound to be.
Yeah, of course.
So the native seeds have, that quality that they are not laced with poison to begin with. And but of course, because they're organic, they need to be stored, they need to be multiplied. The cycle has to continue. So most of these seeds were lost. So I came across these incredible people like Rai. I was talking to you about this lady who ran the seed bank. So we reached out to her, got seeds from there. There's another gentleman who had stored some seeds. So we sort of started collecting all these seeds, planting them. And then, you create your own seed bank. So for anyone who's coming from the city, people are doing, their small terrace gardens, their balcony gardens,
and
they're growing stuff.
Now. Absolutely.
And they don't need to buy seeds because there's anyways they're doing it for good nutrition and clean food, whatever they could grow by themselves. If they would use these seeds.
So when they come here, you pack them,
if they like, if they are gardeners, and there's exchange. Okay. Because some of them have, some other seeds that we may not have.
Oh,
so
nice.
It's a great barter.
Fabulous, yeah.
And I think more and more people, the next movement is also going to be, the next organic movement is going to be not just organic, but native.
Okay, yeah. Yeah,
so
absolutely.
And
all
there's so much wisdom,
and
all
gourds
these
and all. So
we don't even
things.
know, like so many different greens,
and different, not just region, but almost districts can have different.
That's right. Almost
varieties.
200 kilometers. As a little geography, topography changes, they'd have new bunch of seeds across India. Yeah. There's okra in red color, and there's and one doesn't know, they're like super rich in, and there apparently there are thousands of varieties of rice.
Yep.
In Konkan itself, there are rice varieties that are very good. They're almost medicine for somebody who's diabetic.
Okay.
But people are not necessarily growing them.
Don't always think of rice and
exactly that it could be medicinal
for diabetics. Yeah.
Right. But now that people are wanting to explore we're wanting to explore more flavors.
Okay. Yeah.
So that exploration would lead to
Flavor
finding.
First. Yeah.
And people are becoming aware about nutrition, what they are eating. So when that comes into play, then you understand that your best looking broccoli is probably coming from a polyhouse where it's been sprayed with so much. So I'd rather eat a cauliflower that's native, not as big, but it'll pack a much powerful punch in terms of nutrition, and it'll be much cleaner food.
Yeah. And flavor, nutrition, flavor, clean.
Yes.
Yeah. Win. Like I said, there's so much happening here that just echoes everything that we believe in and are passionate about at Village Square, that we could go on and on. But I think we'll leave it for now, because I think what's going to have to happen is I have to come back. And we'll have to do round 2, because I know that you have some interesting things happening in the future as well. But I think what would be fun is to settle on this story for now. And I also think what's interesting is this is not just a Bombay getaway. in some ways, it's possibly even more convenient, or a Mumbai getaway. It's actually more convenient
from Delhi to get
from Delhi, because door to door you're probably 5 hours, and that's with the 2 hours to get to the going to the airport and everything. So this is a really tempting to be coming back here again and again.
We'd love to have you.
Yeah, so much to see, so much to do, and just to get the clean air and the good food. And the good conversation.
You're
Thank
always
you so
welcome.
much for your time.
Thank
really
you
appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. For more, please like us, share it, and follow us on YouTube for more Village Square stories.